Welcome to the Wandiology podcast, where we learn and demystify astrology as a tool to gain a deeper understanding of our energetic signatures and our interactions with the world. Today, I'm joined by writer, filmmaker, Mark Nderitu. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Wandia. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good as well. So Mark is a Taurus Sun in Mercury, and if you guessed it, today we're getting into the Taurus archetype. So let's jump right in. Do you have some questions for me?
Yeah, I do. I think we can begin with the rulership.
Yes.
So, what rules Taurus?
Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus being the planet of love, of money, of what we value, aesthetics, beauty, art. Yes, so that's the Taurus rulership.
Nice. Yeah. Before we get into the planets, I'm curious about. I remember in the previous episode you talked about Aries ruling over the head.
Yes.
So I'm curious, what does Taurus rule over?
Would you like to give it a guess?
If I was to guess, I would guess the neck.
Absolutely. Yes. So Taurus rules the neck area, throat. So it's about using your voice, basically. Taurus has amazing actors, singers. That is the sign. And it's just about using your voice. They have a very flattering singing voices. One of the most amazing placements to have if you want to pursue music or even beauty. Yes, but mostly music. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get into the planets.
Yes, we can.
I know the sun is not a planet, but can we talk about the sun in Taurus?
Beautiful. So we all know we're entering Taurus season, and the sun and the moon are luminaries. They're called luminaries because they provide light. And the sun is about vitality. It's about our confidence, our willpower, our personhood, basically. And Taurus is a fixed sign, and it's an earth sign. So it's a fixed earth sign. And by a fixed sign, I mean that it's modality, right? And by that I mean it occurs in the middle of the spring season. Okay, so fixed signs essentially occur in the middle of the seasons. So Taurus is in the middle of spring, Leo is in the middle of summer, Scorpio is in the middle of fall, and Aquarius is in the middle of winter. And here we're looking at Western astrology, right? That's why we're using the seasons. And so the nature of Taurus being in the middle of spring, that is in the middle of Aries and Gemini, means it's like a bridge, right? From start to end of the season. And what that means is this is a sign that has follow through, that follows through on projects, on commitments, because of this nature of it being fixed, right? And because it's an earth sign, we know the earth is dependable, it's grounded. We literally don't walk around thinking, oh, the earth is going to open up and swallow me, or. So we know that we can depend on the earth, that it's stable, and that is also the energy of Taurus. It's the most stable of earth signs, essentially, because it's fixed earth. And so having that sign as a sun sign means you get a very dependable, stable, grounded person, someone who is slow to move, someone who takes time making the decisions, but also a very patient person, right? Someone who is adamant to change, stubborn, and that. Yes.
Nice. So maybe we can move to the moon.
Yes.
And how does that manifest in Taurus?
So the moon is actually exalted in Taurus. And what that means is when we were looking at the Aries archetype, we talked about an exaltation and how, to paint a picture, it's when you have a dignified guest. For example, in your home, you have a guest who comes around and all the beautiful cutlery is taken out for them, the beautiful cups, the plates, chapatis are made, the really nice food, occasion. And that's how the moon is received in Taurus. The moon is about femininity, the mother, receptivity, introspection. Can also represent some hidden things, right? But mostly the moon is about our daily habits, our eating habits, right? What habits do we cultivate every day to feel secure, right? And so having Taurus, the stable, dependable sign, it gives you a very stable person, a grounded person emotionally. These are the people who have a grasp on their emotions a lot of times, right? Not to say that they don't struggle with emotional ups and downs, but they know how to handle themselves well. They know that emotions are visitors, right? But this also nature of Taurus being stubborn to change makes them also emotionally kind of non-adaptive, right? The people who like to stick to the script. And I saw a TikTok that was kind of implying that what you think the sun sign is, that's the moon sign. Like the moon sign is that thing, like on steroids. Because a lot of Taurus moons I know are very slow to change, extremely. There are also people who cultivate comfort. Innately, they need comfort, they need to feel secure. So they're probably people who go after their goals. They want to build wealth, they want to build comfort for themselves and for the people around them. So basically, this is a really good moon sign. Yes.
Awesome. So I guess now we can move to the planets.
Yes.
We can start with the personal planets, with Mercury being the first.
Yes.
And how does that manifest in Taurus?
That's beautiful. So, a Taurus Mercury is a planet of coordination, the thoughts, how we relate the past to the present, right? It's about communication, and we have this stable, stubborn sign, right? And together with the sign of communication, this, looking at it one way, could give you a very prolific singer, artist, right? Someone who uses the voice, and it's beautiful because you have to remember this is Venus ruled, so Venus comes with the beauty. Also, on the other side, you have to remember this may be a stubborn person in their thoughts, in their opinions, right? Actually, I feel like this question would be much better posed to you because you are a Taurus Mercury. So, what are some of the ways you think that manifests for you?
Well, I think I like first. I came to realize that I like practical stuff, as opposed to like the normal kind of schooling where you sit in a class and take notes. And I really struggled when I was in high school and campus to sit through 3-hour lectures, and it was hell.
Yeah.
And I came to realize I would much rather be out in the field doing something. So it manifests in that kind of way. I think also in the way Taurians speak, especially Mercury Taurus, we're kind of measured. We take our time when we speak. We don't really rush, and that sometimes pisses people off.
Yeah.
I always like, get to the point and like just wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess in terms of communication and speech, yeah, that's basically how it manifests for me.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think that's quite accurate. Yeah.
So moving on now to Venus, which we had mentioned, kind of talked about before.
Yes.
Could you talk about how it manifests in Taurus?
Yes. Venus is at home in Taurus, meaning, to paint a picture again, when you're at home in your PJs and you're comfortable and you're watching your favorite Netflix show, have your hot chocolate, you feel nice because you're comfortable, right? And so that's how Venus feels in Taurus. And this is basically someone who has exquisite taste. This is like opulence, right? And it's someone who is able to curate species and aesthetics beautifully, right? They create comfort in their homes and for other people. This placement will make for amazing interior designers, right? People who have an eye for art, like art curators, beauticians, right? And this placement, because Venus ruled over themes like love, beauty, art, aesthetics, you also have to look at the overdoing of those themes as well. So in essence, overindulgence, because especially Taurus is about the senses and just delving into the senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you touch? What do you taste? And is it nice? Is it exciting you? Are you indulging? So Taurians rarely say no to things that make them feel good, things that are attractive and beautiful. And so you just have to watch out for the overindulgence, because Venus is about desiring things. I want this thing, right? I want that very beautiful thing. So it's making sure that the limits, right, come with the abundance. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Now, moving on to the next planet, which is Mars.
Yes.
How does that manifest in Taurus?
So Taurus Mars is dependable. I usually like to describe them as a never-ending battery, right? Unlike Aries Mars charge into things. They're very headstrong with the energy. Taurus Mars, the energy will be there, but they know how to utilize that energy over long periods of time, right? So this is someone who is consistently showing up for the things they need to show up for, and they're driven by, are we making money, right? Are we making art? The Taurian themes again. And so if you have a goal and your feet are planted, it may take you 1-2 years to find your footing, but once you find your footing, these are people that are consistent throughout their lives. So I've seen they make for really good photographers, people in the arts industries, things that require that patience, that drive, and that's building wealth, right? So this is a very apt placement for building wealth, slowly but surely, right? It's always the tortoise that wins the race. That's Taurus Mars. Also, with regards to being able to store energy like that, you can also store bad energy, which is anger and things of the sort. So you have to be very careful about bottling things up over long periods of time and then one day just bursting out in a spurt of anger. You have to make sure you have grounding techniques, meditation, even gardening, things as simple as that, Just make sure you're grounding your energy. You have techniques, therapy, releasing, talking, because we know Taurians are not.
Yeah, Taurians are bottlers.
Yes.
And bottlers in the sense of bottling up emotions. Yeah, and I've experienced that, what you've talked about before. Because sometimes someone might offend me and I'll just brush it off. And then it'll build up over time.
Yes.
And then one day you just snap and it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, you kind of snap on the wrong person. And sometimes it's just something little.
Yeah.
And it ticks you off, and then that person ends up thinking that, you know, you have a temper problem or something like that, while all along it's just been these emotions that have been bottling up inside you.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Right. We can move on to the next planet, which is Jupiter, which some astrologers regard as a personal planet, while others regard as a generational planet. Could you speak more on that and on how it manifests in Taurus?
Absolutely. So we have Jupiter being the planet of abundance, luck, understanding, philosophy, knowledge, all these things. And you have Taurus and these Venusian themes like beauty, art, what we value, money, finances, right? And so you have Jupiter blesses, essentially. It expands wherever it touches. So if it's touching these Taurian themes, it's expanding your money, it's expanding your beauty, your art. And with that, there needs to be an understanding of the extremes these things can go to, because I like to say that as much as Jupiter is a benefic, expansion can happen within the good or the bad, right? Because you can have an excess amount of wealth, and the things that you're doing to acquire that wealth are borderline problematic.
Yeah.
So it's like, is that a benefic or not? And you have to think about things like that, and not in just a binary, because it's so complicated, so many layers. And so you just have to watch out for overindulgence in these things. Make sure that you making money is not that you're not overdoing the themes that come with that, that you're not overdoing the themes that come with the senses. You're not being lustful or gluttonous, right? So it's just about understanding the limits, which is a big thing of Jupiter, is that with your blessings, you have to understand the limits to these blessings. Yeah, and that's Jupiter in Taurus. But it also makes for a very lucky placement with money making, with creating art and beauty. It makes a beautiful placement in those themes.
Nice. I like how you talked about expansion in both the good and the bad, because a lot of times when we think of Jupiter, we think of it expanding the good things, and we forget that if you ever overindulge for a Taurus, for example, of course it's going to have an effect in the end. There'll be consequences. Nice. So moving on now to the next, which is Saturn.
Yes.
Is it also a generational planet or a personal planet?
So because the visible planets to us, like with the naked eye, are the sun and the moon, the luminaries, and then Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. So those traditionally were considered the planets that have a very big effect on us, right? Even personally. It does take Saturn like maybe 2.5 years to move into the next sign. So a generation will share, or like a peer group, let me say a peer group, if you're born, for example, in 96 and I'm born in 96, we'll most likely share the same Saturn. And that's why some people refer to it as generational, because peer groups share it, right? But it's also a very important planet, especially if it's aspecting your personal planet, right? So if you have something like a Moon Saturn conjunction, that means directly Saturn will be touching on your daily habits every single day. So that's how you look at it. But Saturn is arguably one of the most important planets, because it's a planet of limitations, isolation, hard work, karma, the lessons, right? And the topics we really don't like to hear. And Saturn in Taurus will now bring a restriction with Taurian themes, right? Because in the same way we'd like to overindulge, especially as Taurians, Saturn will come and limit you in that place. You're eating too much, no, right? You're lasting too much, no, here's an STD. Things like that. Very harsh.
Too stubborn.
Too stubborn, right? A change comes and uproots your life, and you're like, oh, you have no one is that grounded, right? Anything can come and uproot your life. But as long as you have the discipline and the kind of that understanding, and that's why Jupiter and Saturn have to work together, because once you have the understanding, next you need to have the discipline to cultivate the values in your life that you need for you to be able to enjoy these blessings that Taurus is giving you, that Jupiter is giving you, right? So if you want to enjoy your wealth, there is a certain discipline you will need to have around money, right? If you need to enjoy art, there's a certain discipline you'll also have to have. If you need to enjoy relationships, there's a certain discipline you'll have to have around people, boundaries. And so that's what Saturn does. It comes and it limits these themes in a way where we cultivate the necessary discipline to be able to have a valuable, sustainable life.
Nice.
Yeah.
I guess now we can move to the generational planets. The first being Neptune. And how does that manifest in Taurus?
Yeah. So Neptune is the planet of imagination. It's a planet of spirituality. It's a planet of disillusionment, illusion, deceit, right? And we have Taurus being the sign of money, being the sign of love, beauty, art. And so here you tend to have a very imaginative person, a creative person, someone who does really well in the art industry, in the beauty industry, because you know to create, you have to start with imagination, right? But you have to also make sure that that imagination is turned into something worthwhile, right? And so because Taurus is a slow moving earth sign, it kind of grounds this imagination, and it's like, okay, now what's the practicality behind this dream, right? And so you get amazing singers, artists, right, beauticians, who have this placement, okay? And so yeah, it's just someone who is very in tune with Venusian themes and very imaginative, very creative when it comes to all these things. Yeah.
Nice. So the next planet is Uranus. Can we talk about how that manifests in Taurus?
Yes. So Uranus is a planet of shock that brings shock into our lives. It's a planet of sudden changes, innovation, technology, and where we stand out from the crowd, right? And again, Taurus being the sign of money, beauty, aesthetics, art, love, even relationships. So you have Uranus being a generational planet. We see Uranus in Taurus affecting us as a generation, right? So, for example, right now, currently, Uranus is in Taurus, and what do we see? We see financial institutions at the brink of, endings. We see changes in trends, that is beauty trends. For example, the Kardashians removing all the surgery work they had done, Black China doing the same. She's a Taurus sun, by the way. And then that affecting a whole generation of younger women, or what the beauty standard essentially is. So, because Taurus is also a very serene, grounded earth sign, we see a lot of people going back to the basics with skincare, the things we eat, the things we consume, right? We see people just going the holistic way. And that's how a generational placement affects a collective of people, right? And so, yeah, you get Uranus in Taurus changing trends, and it'll continue to change the trends.
Nice. So, the last planet in our solar system, which may or may not be a planet, is Pluto. How does that manifest in Taurus?
So Pluto is a planet of transformation, very forceful change, death and rebirth, essentially. And you have Taurus being about all these Venusian themes, but even on top of that, being very slow to change, right? So you find that Pluto doesn't do well with Taurus. Pluto is at home in Scorpio. Yeah, and Scorpio, the opposite sign of Scorpio is Taurus. So Pluto does not do well with Taurus because Pluto wants to change now. Taurus does not want to change now. So ideally, they're not cohesive energies. So for this placement, it's just about being adaptive to change. And I know that's difficult for Taurans to hear, but sometimes, because Pluto is so forceful, you'll have to change either way, right? You'll have to go with what is the cards that are being dealt. Yeah, you won't have the luxury of time sometimes, and so it's just about being able to adapt to that change. That's Pluto in Taurus. But on the other hand, it's changes in your wealth, your finances, right, in your art and things like that. But you'll see also, because this is a generational planet, it affecting the generation as well, unless it's aspecting your personal planets, right? Yeah, so basically that's Pluto in Taurus.
Nice. There are these things called nodes, the North Node and the South Node. Could you speak on what they are and how they manifest in Taurus?
Yes, I can. So the nodes of the moon are essentially the points where the moon's orbital path intersects with the ecliptic. The ecliptic being the apparent path of the sun, right? And in mythology, they're called the head and the tail of the dragon, and they're usually opposite from each other. So if the North Node is in Taurus, the South Node is in Scorpio. And so the North Node is more about what fits with your spiritual path, right? What lessons are you learning to make you be in better alignment with your spiritual path? Your South Node is usually a lot of times your comfort zone, right? Themes that are very familiar with you, but that they keep you in your comfort zone. So a North Node in Taurus, as like now, the North Node is in Taurus. And so it's about these trends that we're seeing, going back to the basics. It's about these huge changes happening with the financial markets, people reestablishing what is valuable and what is not, right? And with the South Node being in Scorpio, it's about working on our traumas. Scorpio is fixed water. So it's very much about unearthing our deep traumas and working through them to be able to figure out, okay, now that I've worked through my traumas, where are we going? What do we value, right? How do we go back to the basics, go back to ourselves and figure out what is valuable to us as a society, or even personally if you have your personal planets there. So basically those are the nodes.
Nice. So oftentimes we hear Taurus being referred to as the bull.
Yes.
How did that come to be, and why is it referred to as the bull?
Taurus the bull. Well, I figure that the bull represents like Taurus in the constellation. I know that, but also I think it's just that imagery of the bull and tilling the land and being very patient, and tilling the tilling the land throughout the seasons, and kind of that representing the energy of Taurus, the stable, dependable person throughout the seasons, right? I do know the myth is, I think, from the Greeks, if I'm not wrong, but there is this one myth that was interesting to me that was about Taurus, the bull, coming out during springtime to till the land, and then Persephone, which represents Virgo, the sign, right, being coming from hell and riding the bull as the bull is tilling the land, right? And after spring, after summer, after the land is, after Persephone did her work, separating the wheat from what is not needed, then she goes back to Hades, is to hell. And so that also becomes the darkest time after fall, and into winter. So I feel like that's a very apt description of the Taurus and Virgo synastry that I see happening a lot. For example, Beyonce and her lead dancer, them being a Taurus Virgo pairing, and etc. It's just, I think, a very interesting myth to me.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of synastry, especially with earth signs and with the Taurus Virgo.
Yes.
So the theme for today was green. And I wonder, is that like because coincidentally it's one of my favorite colors.
Yeah.
Is that like a Taurus thing, or is it an earth sign thing?
I think it's a Taurus thing. I think it's an earth sign thing. I do view like Virgos and Taurians really loving earth colors more than Capricorns. I don't know what that's about, but if I think like about the mythology again and how Virgo the maiden and Taurus the bull were literally in the shamba, and the Capricorn goat is over there climbing mountains. I see the disparity of why Taurus and Virgos love earth colors. But green is beautiful. It's a beautiful color. It's a color of money, of the earth, vegetation. So yeah, and it helps that Taurians are also green fingers, and that they love agriculture, and they're very good with that as well. Yeah. So I actually have a question for you. You're a Taurus sun. So how is that like for you? How's that experience like?
Well, I guess the Taurus archetype, like for me personally, there's an element of patience, where I'm able to be patient with people and patient with projects, so I can see through projects. I prefer long-term projects, long-term friendships, long-term relationships as compared to short-term. So that helps. There's also consistency that comes, and stamina that comes with that.
True.
Yeah, so I can see things through, no matter how difficult they are, even if I really don't want to do it, but I have to do it, I will do it.
Yes.
However, on the flip side, there's what we talked about, like the stubbornness. Can be quite rigid in my thinking. What I believe in is what I believe in.
Yeah.
Unless like you come with with proof and substantial evidence and be like, then maybe I can change my mind. But oftentimes I don't. And I see why people don't like that about Tauruses.
Yeah.
Our Taurians rather. Because we can be very, very stuck in our ways. There's also, of course, the overindulgence. Every Taurus out there has something they overindulge in.
Yes.
Whether it's food, sweets, substances, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So there's that too. So we have to kind of reel it in and kind of balance, to find that balance somewhere in between. Yeah. So, yeah. So it's pretty awesome because I have other placements, but they're not as prominent as Taurus.
Yes.
So yeah, I feel Taurus the most as compared to the others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that's interesting because I have another question. So when you hear about astrology, or rather when you heard about it first, were you like, oh, this is not familiar to me? So
Yeah. It took me years because the first time I heard of astrology was maybe like 7 or so years ago. Okay, I used to see the horoscopes in the newspapers, but it's like one shoe fits all.
yeah.
They were so general, so I never gave it much like a second thought or anything. And then once I finished high school, I had a friend who was really into astrology, and he's a Sagittarius, and he was really in it. So he used to give me nuggets of information, but still I didn't see how it really related to me personally, because I'd never checked my own birth chart. I was like, the curiosity wasn't really sparked. It wasn't until I met you, and this was like last year is when like my interest really picked, when I started to it's like an onion, and just unraveling the layers. I love that. I love complex stuff.
That Gemini Venus.
Yeah. So like seeing how complex, because we are complex human beings, and saying you're just a Taurus
it's not it.
So coming to learn that there's more to astrology than just your sun sign. There's your moon, there's all the other planets, there's the aspects, there's all these things. So putting all these things together, you can kind of build a complex being, and that was very kind of attractive to me, because I was like, oh yeah, now this is interesting. And it applies the same even to like my tastes, and in terms of movies, TV shows,
absolutely,
music. Like I like layered
things.
Exactly.
Complex
layered things that really sit with you. And you can unravel slowly. So that's what attracted me to astrology. As like, it's layered, it's deep. So and thanks for that, because coming to your classes as well helped me like really unpack and start to slowly figure out astrology, and to demystify it, because it's so, especially in our society,
preconceived.
People really see it as this
no,
occult.
we're not doing that.
And I'm like, just give it a chance.
And it's really just a science. Like, it's really typically just a science. And I tell people how my backbone is very scientific. Like, I'm a woman in STEM. I'm an engineer. I am creative. Like, I feel like I'm very left and right brained. But at the same time, with astrology, it was like, wow, I can never figure this out 100%, even 70%. I can't figure out everything in astrology, even now. And I'm in like my 5th year of learning. And it's just like every day there's something new. Every day the planets are changing. Every day events are happening. So it's like we're the timekeepers of history, right? We're the timekeepers, quite basically, and it's a language. So it's like you give math a chance. You didn't ask your math teacher why 1 + 1 is 2. You didn't ask him where he got that. You just trusted that 1 + 1 is 2. So once you start the way you're saying to unravel, oh, I have my son, and okay, that's okay. But I'm not just analytical. I'm erratic because I'm an Aries moon, and then I'm diplomatic because I'm a Libra Mercury. Like romantic because I'm a Cancer Venus, and you start telling a story that fits the character, and that's just the beauty of astrology. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I'm also curious about celebrities
Yes.
with Taurus, either Taurus suns or Taurus placements.
Yes.
Maybe we could mention a few and talk about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. From the top of my head, I am thinking about Adele, Lizzo, Gigi Hadid, Uma Thurman, Megan Fox, Brenda Wairimu. I'm just thinking of all the beautiful women, and I'm like, wow.
That's the Venusian?
That's the Venusian. It's beauty. It's just sheer beauty, and it's a beauty that doesn't try. It just is, right? Yeah. So, can you think of some others?
Yeah, for the men, someone like Dwayne The Rock Johnson. In my own field, my own industry, there are a few directors. There's Lars von Trier. He's from Denmark. There's Jane Campion, who just last year won an Oscar for Best Director.
One of the few women.
Exactly. One of 2 or 3. Yeah. There's Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Whose movies are just beautiful to watch. Like, if you just want to relax and watch an aesthetically pleasing movie, just search Wes Anderson and watch any of his movies. And he has a very particular style. So yeah. I guess off the top of my head, those are the ones I can remember.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's more, because especially in the creative world, there's so many. Chris Brown.
Travis
Scott.
Let's say the problematic ones. Hitler.
Oh. Every sign has their
problematic
good and their
people.
bad.
Yeah. Because every sign can manifest in the most extreme ways. But so
I appreciate you inviting me
anytime
to come to your podcast.
Anytime. I think you're the most Taurian person I know, so I just had to. And thank you as well for gracing me and the podcast with your presence. And you can find me on @Wandiology on all socials. That's Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. You can find me also on the Wandiology podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment what you would like to see more as well. And Mark, would you like to share your socials?
Sure. Currently I'm not very active. I'm on a sabbatical. However, you can still find me on my Twitter, _Mark_Derito rather. And you can check out my website, which is www.darajapictures.com.
Was that intentional? The Daraja, the bridge?
The bridge. Yeah, I didn't think about it initially, but yeah, now when I think about it, it's like, yeah.
That's beautiful. So, yes, thank you very much. And thank you guys for watching. And see you on the next episode. Bye.